Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Yeah, tonight is a different one because tonight I'm going to be doing a presentation. I hope you're all doing well. We got in Ellemnet, we have PJ Cruikshank, Michael Kahn, and Just Bill. How are you guys doing?
Not bad.
Great. Not too bad. Yeah, went fishing. Never caught a thing. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. They were hiding from me there.
Bag PJ.
Yeah, it's one of them, and I get six last week, 6 carp. I'm looking for a couple of little perch and jackpike, and I get nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, but you see, it's because, like I said, you're making up for the day you did so well.
That's it. That's it, definitely. Who's that? There's people falling from behind you, dude. What's going on? Yeah, people falling from behind you. Wow.
Skydiving.
Skydivers. Yeah, it's excellent. Nice.
I think it's only fitting for tonight's presentation topic.
Makes sense. They're falling. Yeah. Yeah. So is the Earth coming up to them? Is it rising right up to them?
Apparently, according to some people, but you can clearly see they are rising and falling relative to the people that they're falling with. Weird how that works if they don't have any force attributed onto them, correct?
That's it.
But don't worry, we'll get into that with my presentation.
Cool. I mean, it's all moving up, but what about the sun, the moon, and everything? Is that all going up at the same time? Because it you know what I mean?
I think
as well as it moving, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
I've not heard that addressed, but you would have to imagine that it's all moving.
It would have to.
Not just that, and into what?
Exactly. Into the universal dome, the big dome of the universe. Once you bust through that, it's nothingness. I don't know. It's just hard to comprehend, isn't it? It's stupid.
Exactly. Okay, so I got the polls.
When Jesus comes back down from heaven, he's going to have a long way to travel.
That's true.
Nice.
So I got the votes, 32 votes, accelerating Earth or RDD. It's so far sitting 50-50, guys.
Oh, is it?
Really interesting, yeah. So we got PJ Cruikshank in there. We got the Zorg, Derek Nelson, Michael Kahn, Sleeping Warrior, good to see you, mate. Cygnus Step, hello. Level Up, thank you for coming. Jeff Gassett, hello, good to see you. Jeff Conkle, great to have you on, mate. Dalla, hello. Taylor Vision, always great to have you, Spuddy. Who else did it say? And that looks like everybody in chat at the moment. So, what do you guys think about this whole accelerating Earth stuff anyway?
You go, Michael, yeah.
Yeah, I said yesterday, well, it don't matter who's claiming it, be it Dell, Bob, whatever, it makes no difference to me because I believe what Scripture says. So.
Exactly.
I find it a silly claim.
Definitely. I just don't understand how they believe it. It's just everything. It causes more problems than the globe does. Do you know what I mean? And so it's worse than being a glober, to be honest.
Yeah, but you see, it's based on globe claims. That's what they don't get. They're pushing general relativity.
Yeah. Definitely. And if they're rising up, what we're rising into, and it's basically saying there's space. We've got space.
Well,
you know what I mean?
But just it's basic fundamentals of physics that they ignore when they say we're accelerating upwards. But we're going to get into that. So, yeah, if you guys are ready for the presentation, just let me know and I can do the presentation because it's like 45 pages long.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Crack on then.
You better get started.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
Lid, you know?
I'm gonna try and make it as concise as I can for you guys.
Cool.
But you see, at least I do have notes on the side,
Mhm.
so I'll try not get confused and everything. But okay, so I'm gonna do my presentation, and then after the presentation, and then you guys can give your feedback and everything, and hopefully I explain it in a manner that everybody will understand. But before I can do that, I first have to play the video. I forgot about that. I totally forgot about I have to first get the video up. Actually, I don't know if I downloaded. Otherwise, I can play that one that I had on. Shucks. I think I forgot to download it, guys. Yeah, I forgot to download it. So you know what I'll do? I'll just have to play the one from my channel. Sorry about that. I totally forgot. Let's go to my channel quickly. Well, while I'm doing that, you guys can see me skydiving with people. But it's good to have you all here. Thank you for coming. Glad you could make it. I think it was this one that I explained it. Yeah.
Please, I mean, I'd
So
be
you
willing to follow.
Yeah. You'll be willing to follow? I think
Earth is moving up. Why not?
it would first have to be observed. I think that's the thing. I would first have to say it has to be observed. If it's not observed, then how are we going to claim it?
It says though Flatzoid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just going to play the first part of this video. So you have the context of what I'm trying to show with the capsule. Because I forgot to download the video, guys. So let's just hope it buffers correct and everything. Really appreciate it. Really, I'm sorry that I didn't download it. So I ask my apologies. But okay, but guys, I want you to pay attention on the altitude graph and the time graph. And pay attention on what is shown with this capsules. Because remember, the claim is simple. If Earth is accelerating upwards, that is why we have the density layering. So they're saying, you see, it's sitting still and it's accelerating up with the Earth. So therefore, the denser liquid is at the bottom. In this case, on the left, that is oil and water with green food coloring. And then on the right hand side, it's blue water, water with blue food coloring and air. Welcome to the demolishment of the up. Yeah, you would have to accelerate forever, which is impossible. Exactly. I wish I had downloaded this earlier. I'm so sorry, guys. Accelerating Earth. As far as you know, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to download it, guys. Sorry about that.
It's just funny to me, like, we're defending against what we were defending with ball earth, you know, with rotation. Like, you don't feel it, you know what I mean? You don't.
Yeah, that's.
It seems like we're back into the same arguments again over this upward moving earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
I don't get how it works. How do they put everything together? I don't get it.
Yeah, but you see, that's the problem with this whole thing. It's not observed, but they're doing false equivocations and saying, you see, therefore this, but they're totally ignoring all physics. But like I said, I got in my presentation trying to explain it, even with equations, by the way. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm going to play the video through just a bit, and then I can get to my presentation. You guys ready?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Okay, let's do this.
Oh,
Welcome to the demolishment of the up-accelerating Earth. As far as you know, or I don't know if you've been under a rock, but there have been claims lately by flat earthers and globe earthers that Earth is the accelerator frame. Now we know the accelerator of Earth is only flat Earth society, as it hinges on general relativity. The issue is that this is demonstrably false. We have tried to explain this countless times, and yet all we get is ad homs and calling us people retarded. Now, let's cue up an actual demonstration showing how the upward acceleration is just demonstrably false. Let's do this.
The onboard video first in real time. Here on the left we've got the altitude plot in relation to the video.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it there because that's all I wanted to show. You saw what was happening as it was rising in altitude. It's just so you can have a glimpse on what we are talking about when I'm referencing with my presentation. So as I'm getting started on the presentation now, you're going to see on the left hand side, this is based off of the claim that Earth is having a constant upward acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared. And this is going to show relative to what you just saw with the rocket and the canisters, the capsule with the liquids inside. So this is the burn-off point. That is that red line there. So as soon as you saw on the graph, it started accelerating with time, accelerated with the momentum up while showing denser fluid at the bottom. As you can see, as it gets to this line, that would be the burn-off point. That would be where the thrust, it stopped pushing thrust and it started to decelerate, coasting or free-falling up. Density has switched 180. So that means the water is now at the top where it was at the bottom there. And it's still accelerated up away from the Earth. So still decelerating relative to the acceleration, obviously because it is slowing down because it has no more thrust. So it's just coasting upward, has conservation of momentum. And relative to the ground, it still shows inverse density. So just this alone already actually shows why they are wrong. Because their claim is that the density layering is caused by the motion, the acceleration of the Earth. That's what they're claiming. So just this alone actually debunks that. But I'm going to get through that now on everything I'm explaining. So I just wanted to explain that quickly to you guys. Okay, so the reason we see the density layering is not due to the acceleration caused by the Earth. We observe the density changes polar to the vector as soon as it experiences a deceleration of the accelerating rocket that is not attached to the Earth. The rocket, while decelerating, is still accelerating further away from the Earth, showing the Earth is not the cause of the density arrangement. This is easily identified and explained due to the momentum of the object in relation to the medium. The rocket accelerated upwards away from the Earth with the liquids present inside the capsule. As we know, it takes more energy to move denser objects compared to less denser components. This shows us that when we accelerate the component with the least amount of mass, it takes less energy to accelerate and thus be situated in the accelerated position. Example, capsule with a liquid and air. The air is, as it is less dense than the liquid. That will be at the top of the accelerated vector and the liquid at the bottom. We see once the rocket starts to decelerate due to the thrust no longer forcing the capsule and the internals upwards, there is a conservation of momentum at play. Since the denser liquid has more energy conserved, it has more force and thus pushes through the less dense air. The density layering is now inverted. All the components such as the capsule and the internals have accelerated at the same rate. They have all the same impulse and thus it is not able to transfer the energy to each other but rather to the surrounding system. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is why we see the deceleration of the rocket in the surrounding system and why we see the Earth has not moved up with the rocket. The rocket is still moving away from the ground, but at a slower rate due to the energy transfer through the surrounding system. Once all the kinetic energy has been transferred, it has now been transformed into potential as the distance the rocket has traveled away from the ground. The rocket, being denser than the medium that surrounds it, will now have the greater momentum change, as its impulse on the air is at a greater force than the air on it. The air not being able to support the rocket will show the rocket forcing itself through the medium back to the ground. The rocket coasts to the ground at a decelerated rate thanks to the parachute, and the internals such as the liquid and the air inside the capsule are able to sort themselves back to the original layering. This is due to the liquid and the rocket being denser, and the surrounding environment with the applied forces will allow the denser liquid having more energy to force itself back to equilibrium. What will happen if there was no parachute to decelerate the rocket back to the ground? Well, just as we observed, when the acceleration occurred, we have the rocket and all the internals accelerate at the same rate, and thus have the same impulse. They act with the same force, and thus show us the last function of layering to stay in contact until it has either reached terminal velocity or it has collided with the ground. Now we move on to Newton's second law of motion. This is the actual derivation of Newton's second law of motion, the actual equation, when it's broken down into its actual form. What we usually see is just the normal F equals ma, but that is only for very specific functions, where it's usually like a single particle movement. So this is the force that is equal to the momentum rate change. So the force is the equal time derivative of the momentum. Now I'm going to explain this a bit in further details. How are we going to do this? I'm going to use an integral equation so we can explain it in two different ways. This is the equivalent in an integral form. We took the equation of and integrated both sides with respect to time. This will help us break the understanding down better, so we'll be able to see why I am claiming RDD is simply Newton's second law in action. So we're first going to do the right hand side, as this pertains to the momentum. What does this tell us? The right hand side shows us that the momentum integrated with time is simply the product of p times 2 minus p times 1. So it's the momentum from position 1 to position 2 in its timing. And that simply just means there is a change in the momentum vector going from time 1 to time 2. So if you see a momentum rate change, let's say something moving, it has a momentum and it has a change from time 1 to time 2, from position 1 to 2, and therefore it has momentum and it has a vector. Let's move on to the left hand side. Well, that's just the explaining of the impulse. It explaining impulse is reference to a weak force acting over a period of time. So if you explain how an impulse works, if you think of a quick shudder, let's say if you just have a quick bang, that would be an impulse. You had an impulse of force. So that is how the impulse works. And then obviously note that the F is referring to general function of time. This constitutes that it is a force with varying time. What this is telling us is that the change in the momentum of the system doesn't depend on the detailed time dependence of F, but rather the integral of F. So in other words, the variation of F. So it's the variation of the force applied due to time. So what is impulse? I'm trying to explain it as simple as possible. Impulse is simply the product of the force being applied times the time over which the force is being applied. Let's take an example of two balls falling to the ground. We're going to imagine them falling at the same velocity and have the same mass. Okay? See, the one is bouncing and the other one just hit straight and stopped. What did we see there? Wow. The time of interaction was less with the ball on the left, and the time of interaction was more on the right. That is, so had a different impulse. Okay, what do we see? We saw the ball on the left side had shorter interaction period compared to the right side ball. This means that the ball on the right is applying less force to the table and compared to the ball on the left. So we saw as soon as it just had a hit, it just put on more force applied to the table, and the one that was bouncing had less force because of the impulse. So momentum will change over time. Impulse is a force applied over time. Now, how is this significant? Well, if we take the based on the presented demonstration, we can see the relationship between the object and the medium and the forces relative to what we observe. We see the capsule shows a density layering with a denser liquid at the bottom while accelerating away from the ground. We then see as soon as the thrust can no longer be applied to the rocket, all the components inside have conserved the momentum, and thus the denser liquid having more force had forced itself through the less dense air, and thus the density layers were inverted. Now, since the rocket is still accelerating relative to the Earth, it keeps the density inversion thanks to the conservation of momentum. The relationships here show that the air, the liquid, and the rocket are all accelerating with a different momentum as described with impulse. So, when it was in this situation, it was accelerating up, it was accelerating from the Earth, correct? The dense water was at the bottom, the less dense air was at the top. As soon as it had burn off, the thrust is no longer pushing it up. The water inside and the air is inverted because why? The water had to conserve momentum just like the capsule, but now because it's denser than the air inside, it inverted it. It forced itself through the medium. The air and the water is now inverted. But note, now that it's inverted, it is still accelerating away relative to the Earth. So therefore, you cannot claim it's the Earth causing the density layering because it's still accelerating away from the Earth. Now we're going to go and look at the car situations. We know that you require more energy to move an object with more mass, just as it is harder to stop an object with more mass. Let's take example of a car. The car is driving and slams the brakes. The car has momentum. It carries on in its vector as it decelerates to a stop. Now, let's place a bowling ball and a ping pong ball on the rear shelf. What happens as the car slams the brakes? We see the ping pong ball and the bowling ball both have momentum and thus conserved the momentum towards the front of the car. It took more energy to stop the bowling ball as it did for the ping pong ball. How do we know this? Well, the bowling ball goes through the window as the ping pong ball did not even reach the windscreen. So this is me showing the car. It started accelerating and it hits the brakes. And then, as you can see, it's decelerating relative to its motion. The ping pong ball inside the car was on the rear shelf and only went so far. The bowling ball went through the windscreen, rolled further than the car, and stopped in front of it. Why? Because of the conservation of momentum. Now, we take a look at this demonstration from Dell. The car accelerates, and we see the liquid move from the back of the bottle. We see that it takes more energy to move a substance with more mass. Thus, the less denser air is forced forward as the liquid has forced itself through. The car with the bottle and the internals and all accelerating forward with different forces. Remember when I'm talking about impulses, they're moving at different forces. It takes more energy to move a denser object. The air doing its thing, moving in all directions in the bottle, has little force compared to the liquid. Yes, guys, gas moves in all directions constantly. Just because it's in the bottle and moving with it doesn't mean it's still not moving in all directions. Remember, it's unbonded, unlike the liquid. So the dense liquid cannot be supported by the air as it moves to the back of the bottle. When the brakes are hit, the car and bottle with internals all conserve momentum. The car having the most friction will disperse its energy quickest, and because of this rapid deceleration, the liquid with the most force due to the conservation will force itself to the front of the bottle until the car has hit a standstill. So what was explained here? The car hit the brakes, he had the water bottle, and while he was accelerating, the water went to the back of the bottle. But as he hit the brakes, because of the conservation of momentum, the water went to the front of the bottle. And as soon as the car stopped, he has no acceleration anymore, the water went to the bottom of the bottle. Okay? Are you guys still with me? I hope so.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I were on full screen light, so I couldn't get to my mute button.
No stress. Is it making sense so far to you guys?
Yep.
Okay. Because I'm trying to make it as concise and plain and simple as I can. Okay. So we move on. Now we take the rocket demonstration and show that the rocket is accelerating upwards away from Earth. Even after the burst and it starts to coast, the deceleration of the rocket is still going to be accelerating away from the Earth as the altitude is increasing. We observe, just as we did in the car, as the capsule is accelerated upwards in the liquids are pushed back in the capsule. Why? Because the liquid is forced to the back. The air is being less dense is forced to the nose. That's just the displacement. When it hits the deceleration part, the conserved momentum of the liquid is shown to force the air to the bottom of the capsule. The force of the denser liquid will always be greater than the less dense air. This is why we observe the inverted density while the capsule is accelerating away relative to Earth. Now we have two scenarios that work with this. The one proposed argument is that the Earth is rising at a constant velocity of 9.8 meters per second squared. The argument is as follows. It only appears that the object is falling or accelerating down to the Earth because it is experiencing a deceleration as the Earth is rising up to meet the object. How is the scenario shown to be wrong? Well, as I've shown earlier, when the rocket is still accelerating away from the Earth, the density layering is inverted. Remember I showed you? The rocket is still accelerating away even though it's decelerating in reference to its own speed. So if the Earth is rising towards the rocket and the rocket still is accelerating away from the Earth, it should not have density layering as we saw in that video. Okay, so where was I? Okay, it cannot be the cause of the density layering if it shows opposite to what is claimed, and that's exactly what it's doing. Do take note, this argument is for the globe Earth based on general relativity as well as upward accelerating flat Earth, which is true. It's based on the globe Earth general relativity argument and the flat Earth society rising up. Okay. This argument has more flaws as it shows the object has no force applied as the ground is moving up towards it. This negates Newton's second law of motion as the object has no force attributed to it. We see demonstrations in the Vomit Comet aka 0G plane and people dropping accelerometers to the ground. The 0G plane is simply explained by your reference in the plane and everything inside the plane with the plane is accelerating at the same rate towards the Earth. Note, the plane does have a force and everything inside it traveling at the same magnitude. We get this argument in favor of stating you see RDD does not work in freefall, so therefore it is bunk. All this, by the way, simply ignoring that all objects are moving with the same velocity together and thus the same impulse as they travel through the air. So what I'm trying to explain here is, let's say we stand on the ground here. The plane is literally forcing itself down. It's actually pushing everything down. So everything inside the plane as it's doing that is moving at the same rate. It's accelerating at the same rate. The Earth rising up towards it has got nothing to do with it. It's the plane and everything inside the plane. So all the people and the density towers and whatever that's in the plane still have density to them. They are all just accelerating into the same vector. So therefore, you wouldn't expect them to have a greater impulse, as all the impulses are now exactly the same. Just like if you have two balls at rest on a table, the impulse is the same. Because why? They're relative to each other. Okay, so if all objects have the same magnitude in the same direction, how would they be able to have pressure on one another? If we know the bottle, this bottle, the liquid and the air are all moving together in one direction. Please note the air, even though it's moving in the environment, is still moving in all directions freely inside. What is a force? We can define it as the pressure exerted on a surface area. So I reiterate that if all the objects in the accelerating environment are moving at the same velocity in the same vector, how would one have a force working on a surface? Simple answer is they do have a force, but they have the same value thanks to its momentum and impulse. This is why we see you shake a density tower and let it free fall and stays the same, or as if the density is inverted, it stays the same with the same rate of fall. Just like this apple is going down, let's say 9.8 meters per second squared, this guy inside the box is going down more 9.8 per second, just like the bottle with the water in the air is going down, and the box all going down exactly the same rate. So they're all accelerating at the same rate. Therefore, they have the same impulse. The fact we can observe things falling is an indication that there is a force at play, and therefore you cannot false equivocate the 0G plane and state you see no RDD. The claim is that the reason we see the fall is due to the deceleration and not the object forcing itself through the medium is not only ignorant, it is showing bias to a delusion based in the mathematical construct. We saw that the rocket demonstration had proven the accelerating frame is not the cause of the density ratio, but the relationships between the object and the medium within a force that's present. Without the force present, you would not have the inverted density, as it is still accelerated away from the reference in the case of the Earth, in this case the Earth. So how does this claim debunk the accelerating flat Earth and the globe narrative? Simple. You have no force for your effect. We do observe a force. This is taken from that same video, but later on when they did the shot again, and the oil and the bubbles and the mixture actually mix up total different and give the same. Now, I have to bring terminal velocity into it as well, as it shows the upward acceleration of Earth falls. This is based on if the person is falling and reaches terminal velocity. That would mean the person is actually moving and not the Earth rising to it. Why, you ask? Easy. If the ground was accelerating towards the guy, then there would be no terminal velocity, as there is no force on the person. You require a force to reach terminal velocity. If the ground is accelerating closer to the guy, why would the guy reach its peak? The ground would need to reach terminal velocity, and we do not even observe a moving ground to make that claim. Since we observe an acceleration of the object and a claim of accelerating up Earth has no force to it, it violates the first law of motion. We observe an object when picked up do not stay at rest when we let it go. This means there is a force acting upon, and thus the movement observed contradicts the claim of its decelerating without any force or momentum. For an object to have observed vector, it requires it to be acted on by a force. Note again, both the accelerating Earth and the globe Earth both claim there is no force. If the apple falls through the air, showing it accelerates towards the ground, there is a demonstration of the apple showing it has velocity. It showed it has impulse. It shows it has momentum. It shows it has vector. I think you get the point. So what do we see? We see momentum. That would be the change over time. That's the apple. The impulse, which is the force it has over time, the apple. Acceleration, it's the distance over time times time. That's the apple showing that. Velocity, which is the speed plus the vector. The apple is having a speed plus its vector. And we see pressure, which is the force of the area, as the apple has a pressure of force over area as it moves through the medium. And just in case you're claiming I'm stating a downward bias, I will place this helium balloon to show you that's not the case. The vector is determined by the density. The force is the object's impulse on the surrounding medium. Thus we have momentum. Hope I explained it well enough. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask and converse. Thank you for your time. Blessings. There we go, guys.
Wow.
Did that make sense?
Done.
Yeah, awesome.
Definitely.
So yeah, at the end of the day, they don't have a force to claim what they're claiming. So there is no argument for an accelerating Earth, globe or flat Earth.
Exactly. I mean, do they try and explain what's making it rise?
No, they just say it's got the Earth is moving because they can show it with a bottle accelerating in a car.
Wow. I mean, come on. It's so.
They have to.
Come on.
They have to
You
ignore,
really have to be ignorant to believe that. Surely.
They have to ignore Newton's first law of motion, and they have to ignore Newton's second law of motion.
You know, Newton's laws, are they based on a stationary Earth?
Yes, they are.
Game over then, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it's good to have everybody in. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
It all seems like it's just relativity, man. Like when Einstein saw the guy fall off of the roof, he said mathematically I couldn't determine whether it was the ground meeting the guy or the guy meeting the ground. And that's all this really is, like math, fantasy.
Well, then I want to show. You guys can see these people behind me. Are they going up and down? Look at that, going down.
Just falling.
Yeah, but look. Now they're going, and the one can go up again. There we go. Now, explain to me how that happens if there's no force acting on them. How is the one going higher than the other, back lower, back higher, if there's no force acting on them?
Exactly.
You require a force.
Everything would just be going like up at the same rate, wouldn't it? I mean, there would be no up and downs with people like you can see the skydivers. One's higher than the other. You know what I mean? That wouldn't happen, would it, on a rising Earth? Because
remember, according to their rising Earth, there's no force attributed to these skydivers. So because there's no force attributed to them, they will not be able to change their relative positions. You get that? Because they have momentum, they have magnitude, they have vector, that debunks the notion they are 0g. They do have acceleration vector. Look at this. Look again. See, look at this guy. He's going down, and that guy's going up all of a sudden. Now he's also going up. Why? Because there's a force at play. So yeah. So I just had to bring that up for everybody. So any questions?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
No, I'm not about that.
It just it creates a lot of problems, doesn't it? I don't get why they ascribe to it at all. It's
Exactly.
it confuses me. I mean, they might think it's easy, but it confuses me.
If I say I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's very simple. They're claiming that air pressure and surface area, right? Hey, Rachie, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Can Rachie explain to us how you can ignore the first law of motion and the second law of motion and still say it's accelerating Earth? Because I explained the mechanics behind it, why we have the movement of the balloon. In this case, we have the balloon rising up, correct?
Yeah.
It has a force. Why does it have a force? Because it has momentum. Because it has impulse. It has acceleration. It has velocity. And it has pressure. So therefore, it has a force. According to your rising Earth, that balloon has no force. So therefore, it cannot change momentum. It cannot have an impulse. It cannot have acceleration. It cannot have velocity. It cannot have a vector. But we do see that. How are those laws being ignored? I just explained it.
She didn't see all your presentation, Flatzoid.
I suppose. She just come in. She just come in 5 minutes ago.
Okay, let's quickly get the laws up quickly. Okay. Newton's first law of motion states every object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change if its state action by an external force. So just like I was explaining with the ball, let's go to the ball quickly. Or we can even do it this way. This apple, Rachie. This apple, we picked it up and we let it go. You would agree the apple it has a vector. It is accelerating. Now, that requires a force to be present. So it changes its momentum rate, so therefore it has a force. So what does it say? Every object will remain at rest. So that apple picked up will remain at rest if there's no force on it. And it will only be compelled to change, otherwise it will move if a force has an action on it. So there is a force having an action on it because the apple moves. Then,
Whoop.
whoop whoop.
Yeah, who whooped in?
No idea.
Neil. All right, Neil.
Hey Neil, how's it going, mate?
Hello, gentlemen.
Did not set up.
Okay.
So yeah, that was you guys ignoring the first law of motion. Now the second law of motion defines a force to be equal to the change in momentum, mass times velocity per change in time, and that's exactly what I was explaining on my with this ball. As it was falling, it has an impulse, and as there's a change on time. Just like I was trying to explain with the integral equation for you guys.
That's what I said the other day. I mean, if it's rising and you get a ball like that, a bouncy ball, and drop it, it's got to keep bouncing, isn't it? Because it has got to come up and meet it. It's got to bounce. It's got to go up. It's got to come up and meet it again. Do you know what I mean?
Rachie, she says the apple appears to accelerate because Earth accelerates up. No, it doesn't appear to accelerate. It physically accelerates, Rachie. That is the problem. You guys are making a claim that it's not physically accelerating.
See, this is where I'm lost. So I thought the claim weren't that Earth are accelerating up. So it's either accelerating up or it isn't. Which is it?
That's the thing. They contradict themselves. They say it's not an accelerating Earth up, but that's exactly what they're stating.
Richard just said that.
Yeah. Rachie, the second law of motion states that it has momentum. When we see that apple falling, it has momentum change. It changes position from position 1, time 1, to position 2, time 2.
And Paul has said, if there's no force on the falling apple, what about friction
Yes,
from
yes.
air?
I can prove the apple physically accelerated. We saw it from position 1 to position 2. When I...
Me.
Okay, I'm going to do it this way, Rachie. Let's go back to the apple. Let's say I'm standing here holding this apple in my hand now. Okay? Correct? I'm standing holding it in my hand. And I let it go. According to the laws of motion, it requires a force for that apple to change its position. Did that apple change its position or not? Quick answer, yes it did. Therefore, it proves the apple moved. It had a force to it. Now, you are saying the ground is moving up. We observe the apple falling. You are then saying the ground is moving. So your burden is to prove the ground is moving up and not the apple, because we observe the apple to be moving, not the ground. And this goes back to where I was explaining with the aeroplane as well, Rachie. You're saying relative. The aeroplane is moving in a system around it, the Earth. We see so-called 0G inside in the plane. Why? Because they're all moving at the same accelerated rate. It has a force attributed to them. The ground is not moving up to the plane. The plane is physically forcing itself down towards the ground. If I'm standing on the ground and I see that plane coming down, okay, is that plane physically coming to the ground, or am I going up to the plane? So keep that in mind. And just like I said, when it comes to terminal velocity, that debunks your whole accelerating up Earth, because you require a force to be able to get to terminal velocity. So if you can show me how an object gets terminal velocity without force, be my guest. I can't make it more clear than this, guys. This is just like hand wave dismissal beyond anything I know.
It's really fascinating, or lunacy.
Shit. I was going to say, why invite Rachie in to talk in Ellemnet? It'd be easier.
Yeah, Tony Whitcomb, thank you very much for your £10 super chat. Really, really appreciate it. He says, if Earth was accelerating upwards, then the plane would have to account for that. Same as the Earth spin. Cause and effect, we don't account for it. Exactly. That's actually a brilliant point, Tony. When the plane is accelerating down to the Earth, it's not accounting for the Earth rising up towards it as well. It is only accounting for the plane forcing itself towards the ground. Good point. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. So yeah, 64 votes. Accelerating Earth or RDD? Accelerating Earth, just like general relativity, is 41%. Relative density disequilibrium, that actual has physics behind it, 59%.
Wow. I can't believe there's so many on the other side, on the accelerating Earth. That's crazy. Didn't realize there was so many.
Yeah. Yeah, I should still be around at 10. It's another hour. I should still be around, Rachie. I don't have work tomorrow, so we can at least go on a bit longer. So it'd be great if we had anybody to go on. Yeah,
that'd be cool. If you came on, Rachie, that'd be cool.
Exactly.
It'd be easier to talk, wouldn't it?
Exactly, level. Paula says terminal velocity is when the friction from the air equals the force of the falling object. Exactly. That's what I said. You require a force to have terminal velocity. Without a force, there's no terminal velocity. And when a person is skydiving, they reach terminal velocity. Hello? Any lights on in there?
Spud's right, yeah. That's it. Earth isn't moving. Simple as.
Hey, Nazran, he says, explain why everything falls down at the same rate in a vacuum, including helium, because the medium to give the friction is taken away. The medium is is supposed to support the object. If the medium is taken away that's supposed to support the object, there's less pressure against it, so less impulse of the medium to object relationship, and therefore it sinks to the bottom easier. So very simple. Hey Hammer, good to see you, mate.
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I had to drop out earlier.
No, I did.
No,
How was one? How's the daughter?
Doing well. Sleeping in her little swing right now.
Did she sleep well? Did she keep you up?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get her back on, onto a normal night routine. But
nice, man. I get broody about babies. It's crazy because I just remember my kids when they were babies. It's crazy.
it goes so fast too. It's like
it does.
Yeah, exactly, Paula. She says there would be no air friction if the air is moving with the Earth. Yep. Because the terminal velocity is due to the force attributed on the object that's falling, not on the air that's rising up.
I just don't understand how it's believed because it causes more problems.
They're totally inverting it.
We're back to arguing whether air's stuck to Earth, though, again, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it's so much like arguing with a ball argument. It's silly to me.
Professor Bill, the gentleman. I said latitude, not altitude. Okay, just quit your attitude.
But yeah, it's simple. They have to ignore the first law of motion and the second law of motion. Just by ignoring those laws already shows they don't have an argument. I don't know if it's...
You can't have them laws, can you, if Earth's moving?
No, because they're based on a stationary Earth.
Yeah.
They have to ignore that they don't have an observation either.
They don't. Like I say, just like when... let me do it this way. I got this in my hand, guys. I'm holding it. Okay? Now they're saying me with this is not all accelerating. Now as soon as I let it go, what are we going to observe? It accelerated. Okay? We saw it accelerate. We observed it with our own two eyes. We can actually measure it having an acceleration value. Okay? It changed momentum rate. It has an impulse. Okay? It has pressure on the system around it. It falls. Now they're saying it's the Earth rising up towards it. But what did we observe? We observed it falling. We observe it accelerating. No matter what you do, it's accelerating. Now they say it's the ground accelerating. But what did we observe having the motion? Did we observe the Earth having the motion? Or did we observe the object having the motion?
The object.
Exactly. So, I think it's just dishonesty to say it's not the object accelerating if that's what you're observing to accelerate. Just like when we say, okay, if you shoot a bullet, is the bullet not physically accelerating now? Or is it the object that you're shooting accelerating towards the bullet? Because that's the same equivalence that they're putting on the Earth with a moving object.
Yeah, I believe you were going over that point with FTFE the other day, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the discussion of derivation and what that actually means.
Yeah, he's an idiot, absolute idiot.
Well, I just showed a derivation. There we go. That's integral form. That's a derivation of the second law of motion. There we go. Gives the same outcome. Raichi, observations, density and pressure gradients, directionally RDD not working. Again, Raichi, that is false. Here we go. I'm going to show it again.
Can I just say something there? Right, both Richie and Dell use accelerating car demonstration. Yeah, Richie claims accelerating if Dell don't. I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah, but I'm asking Rachie now. On screen, the rocket is accelerating away from Earth. This is the inversion density we see. It's moving away from your claimed Earth. Do you see the issue here? We can explain why it's got this inversion based on the conservation of momentum and relative density disequilibrium. Based on your claim it's the accelerating Earth, it debunks it as it is 180 degrees in the opposite direction. The vector is going away from your accelerating Earth. I don't know how much more plain I can make it. It's a simple and stupid argument to make. This debunks it. This still shot debunks it in a nutshell. There's no accelerating Earth. And I mean, just like everybody's been saying, then what's it accelerating into?
Exactly.
Rachie says no, not accelerating away from the Earth. It is accelerating from the Earth. This is an acceleration to time scale. You see how it's looking now? It's still accelerating up in that inversion. As soon as it had that burn off, that's when it inverted. And it's still accelerated away from the Earth. That's what acceleration away from Earth is. Because it's still raising in altitude while it is inverted, Rachie. So raising in altitude means accelerating away from Earth.
Hey, Flatzoid.
Mm-hmm.
In that video, as the pod or the rocket is falling at free fall, right? If it's falling at terminal velocity, does the video show that the relative density disequilibrium takes over once everything stops accelerating?
The thing is, it catches.
The
thing is, the parachute catches it before it reaches terminal velocity, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then as soon as the parachute comes out, then we have conservation of momentum again due to the densities, and we know it takes more energy for an object with more mass to move, so it takes more energy for an object with mass to stop. So, in other words, as soon as it's going back down with the parachute, the liquids is going to the bottom. It's going to force itself to the bottom because the air cannot support it, and because the kinetic energy from the liquid is greater.
Yeah, I copy that, man. I just wish we could show that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I wish we could show the free fall.
Let me quickly, I can see if I can quickly find the full video. I can't remember where. Because I thought I downloaded it, but I didn't. Let me quickly see if I can find it for you guys.
Because they keep dropping things from, 3 or 4 feet high or whatever, but it's accelerating. It's still accelerating.
But that's why I said to have terminal velocity alone debunks them, because you require a force for terminal velocity to exist. And we see like skydivers have terminal velocity or whatever. So that means it has a force. Okay, I'm going to quickly download it. So yeah, guys, just like you can see in the background, those skydivers have a force on them. Why? Because you can see they're moving up and down. Oh, sorry, because they're moving up and down while they are so-called free-falling without force. You cannot change your momentum or your vector without having a force applied. So,
take a bit of his Dell's logic is sound.
that's a good one.
It's funny, very funny.
Okay, let's quickly get it back up. Okay, you guys can see my screen.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye, man. Aye.
Let's just mute it. This is actually a very cool project that the guys did because they're explaining water rockets. Okay, liquids in flight. See how it's going? Oop, see there, it's still accelerating up. And now it starts falling. And now it's going to parachute and then go down. Okay, let me just go back to where... See, that's the capsule. The one is the green is water with green coloring, and that's oil. The one is the blue with water coloring and the air. Now they're just making to put it in there. Okay, I want to go back to. Okay, must I put it a bit slower so we can see? I think it's gonna be better. Let's put to 0.5. Was there? No, let's go to the slowest. Okay, Rachie. This is an acceleration to time graph. So this going up is accelerating. It's showing acceleration and altitude, while this time is going to time. So on the left you have the oil and the water with green food coloring, and on the right you have the air and the water with blue food coloring. Now, note, it's going to start accelerating. There, it's accelerating now, okay? What do you see? It's pushed to the bottom, obviously because it's dense, it was already sitting in that position. But let's look what happens as soon as it has burnout. Okay, it's going to hit burnout. Look at the inversion. That starts inverting. What's happening on this graph, Rachie? Is it still raising in altitude, accelerating away from the Earth? Yes, it is. But look at the liquids. They are inverted a total 180 degrees while it is accelerating away from the Earth. And yeah, Rachie, exactly like Paul is saying, you're forgetting about conservation of momentum. That's exactly what you guys have been demonstrating with Dell and all your explanations. It's just conservation of momentum. That is it. Conservation of momentum is not acceleration. Conservation of momentum is actually it's deceleration, but
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
But it first has to accelerate away from the stop point to decelerate. Let's see if I can. I got it on the car, yeah. Just like with the bowling ball, the car stops. Okay, now the car has stopped. What happened to the ping pong ball and the bowling ball? They moved, so they accelerated further than the car. So they had to accelerate to decelerate.
Yeah.
Conservation of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Rachie says no, it's not. It's going up, but it's not accelerating up, or else the dents won't be at the bottom. It's showing away from Earth. The Earth, the ground, is staying at exactly the same point, Rachie. You ignoring that. It's moving away from Earth, so therefore accelerating away from Earth, correct? If it's moving away from Earth, so do you understand when you're raising in altitude, you're creating a longer distance away? It's decelerating as it's coasting, but it's still accelerating away from your Earth because it's going faster than your Earth. If your Earth is claimed to go 9.8 meters a second per second squared, and it's still moving away, that means it's still accelerating away from your accelerating Earth. That's why it's called acceleration. I don't know. I don't know how much more clearly I can explain this. This is like the most basic physics. Remember, acceleration is distance by time times time, and that's what we see. And what did we see with the rocket? It had a vector. Yep, drag is a force level. Just that's what friction is.
I personally think what we should do now is just leave them to it and go and prove Earth's moving. Come back when you can.
Well, I believe the Bible. Immovable.
Yep. And what does the physics show us? It goes and it validates what the Bible says.
Exactly. We don't move. That's what we are. So we don't observe any movement whatsoever.
So Rachel, I'm going to ask. So
we observe the skies moving. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask Rachel. Be honest with yourself now. With this apple, when we let it go, what do you see? You would agree it has momentum to change over time because it has momentum. It's moving. It has an impulse. It has a force over time. It has acceleration. It has velocity. It has a vector. It has pressure. We observe these things. Do we not observe those things? So this is where I'm going to ask anybody claiming the accelerating Earth. Do we observe these things or not when dropping a object? Tell me. Because they have to be honest with themselves. They have to say, yes, we do observe it because that's exactly what we observe. Then they have to tell me, if we observe that, how, for Pete's sake, can you then claim it has no force? For those things to happen which we observe requires a force. So there we go. Plain and simple to see.
Well, obviously not for them.
So on screen now it's showing, there we go guys, moving away from the Earth, and it is still having an inversion. So therefore it is not accelerating Earth doing anything. Look here, it's still going with altitude rising up, and it's even got oil, water, oil, water. So it doesn't even have it uniformly. Exactly, Black Ice, good to see you. But that's what I want to ask Rachie. Rachie, have you been on a roller coaster before? Or just in a car driving fast and you've gone over a hill where the car drops all of a sudden? You feel like everything's pushing up. Your stomach's pushing up. Do you not?
Yeah. It jumps. It's like your stomach jumps up to your chest.
Great. So that's how we can prove we feel an acceleration. We feel a force. If there was no force on us, you wouldn't feel it because the ground would simply be the thing moving towards us. So we wouldn't feel any acceleration towards the ground when we do that. That alone debunks their claim. What is the citation for proof the Earth is continually increasing its speed, and what is the cause? Where is the energy coming from? Yep, they can't even get to that, Paula, unfortunately.
That's it. I mean, it's moving up, but what's moving it?
And
Is it reverse? Is it reverse gravity?
And where's it moving to? And where's it moving? Where's it moving to? Where's it going in? From what?
Does it have a purpose? Crazy.
It's general relativity with flat Earth, flat Earth wrapping paper.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
See, I was really trying to think perfectly how I can explain it with concise as I can using physics, and I don't know how much more plain I can make it to explain it to the people. I don't. Because at this point, it feels to me that if they're saying it, that they're just being dishonest. And unfortunately, that's how it is, because everything is going opposite to what they're claiming. Because we get straw mans.
That's how I'm.
Yeah.
That's how I'm beginning to feel as well. It just seems dishonest.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If we, I wanted to say something. I can't remember what I want to say.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I just said out. Reverse gravity.
Because their argument against relative density disequilibrium is just them not understanding we have laws of motion. We have conservation of momentum. That's it. So when we have 0g fall, as they put it, it's everything is accelerating at the same rate. There's still a force. They all have the same impulse. They all have the same rate of force. So therefore, they cannot change due to their densities, because when they're not accelerating at the same rates, the one with the greatest pressure would be the denser one, and therefore it can force itself into its equilibrium. But when they all accelerate at the same rate, they cannot do that. Why? Because they have the same rate of force. Tony Whitcomb, thank you very much for a £10 super chat. Really appreciate it, mate. He says, Tiger Bear's comment agrees with Dal. So Dal has globers on his side for Earth motion. Hope Dal agrees he has globers on his side. Yep, exactly. Thank you for the super chat, Tony. The thing is, the globe pushes general relativity, which is exactly the same argument that Dal's pushing. To the T, exactly the same. Faciality, thank you very much for $2 super chat, mate. He says, Earth is way too incredibly massive to be moving.
That's it. That's it, man. It is. It is. It does not move. It's immovable.
I agree.
I believe God. I believe God. And in the Bible, you know what I mean? It says immovable.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Steadfast. Anchored. Not moving at all.
Yeah. So I would actually like a response from Dal on this, even Raichi. And then they would have to come and show us how Newton's first law and second law work with their nonsense bullcrap that the object that's seeming to accelerate has no net force on it, while we're observing acceleration and we're observing motion, we're observing magnitude, we're observing vector, we're observing everything that requires a force. So that'll be great. But Rachel said she's going to come in just now. Hopefully she will be able to.
Cool, should be. She got the link.
Rachel, you do have the link, correct? Well, otherwise
you need the link.
Get it. Let me see if I can quickly get the link.
What was that? Narson said, my question was, why in vacuum doesn't RDD work, since everything
does work.
falls in the same speed? Yeah,
It's
disregarding. I know it's been answered. I know. That's why I'm reading it.
It does
work.
work.
It's been answered. I seen you telling him, Michael. He's been answered.
But I don't understand. It does work. We explained how it works and why it's still.
Just because you don't, he probably just doesn't understand.
You don't understand.
Doesn't he understand, man? I'm telling you.
Pin message. There we go. Pin message. Okay.
I jolly Newton were deep into occult.
Newton was an alchemist, guys, and he kept it secret while he was alive, because if he did actually reveal his alchemist ways and stuff, he would have got hanged.
That's it. That's making potions and stuff and drugs, really, isn't it? Alchemy.
Yeah,
that's really where chemistry comes from. Not chemistry.
He ended up actually having mercury poisoning.
Oh wow, man.
Okay. Rachie, are you on laptop or a phone? Or computer?
Rachie, I put the link up I pinned the link up for you. You can just click on there.
She's never used it, so she's.
Yeah, you do need to download Ellemnet, don't you?
Not if she's on a laptop. That's why I'm asking her.
Oh right, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't.
You can just use it for
Only
browser.
only on the phone you need it as an app, but on the browser on the laptop you don't need it. You can just go in as a
On the
guest.
tablets, it's an app as well.
Yeah, you can go as a guest. The votes so far are 71 votes, and 38% say accelerating Earth, 62% say relative density disequilibrium.
Yeah, like that. I can't pronounce his name. Cygnus. I don't know his name. I don't know. He said he downloaded the element, but he never goes in. Just come in, dude.
Moomin Rider, this is guava juice. So yeah, I think I explained it as good as I could. I worked my butt off for that presentation the last 2 days, guys. Every little,
Yeah, it was well presented.
Every time I got a little free spot at work, I just quickly sat and quickly did another page.
That's what I'm saying, man. You're well busy. You just you do everything all the time. You're working, and when you're in work, you're planning the show. You're doing bits for the show, and when you get home, you probably have dinner, then sort the show out. Crazy. You're just working all the time, man.
Exactly. Let's see. Can we test the Earth's movement? Yes, we can. Let's sit and watch the Earth. I don't see acceleration.
Yeah.
I don't see momentum change. I don't see any change at all. So therefore it's at rest. So therefore no laws of motion. So therefore the claim that Earth is the one having the motion is bunk.
I mean, what about things like, like you grow corn, wheat, and stuff like that, and they grow up the way, and they've got like weak stalks and that. They grow up the way. If it's an accelerating Earth, then surely them kind of crops would be all flat to the ground. You know what I mean? It's just I don't get this accelerating Earth. It's just weird.
We'll see if she can download. Okay. Yeah, Rachie, if you can't make it understand, we can always make it another time, and I can maybe then invite you on a StreamYard link kind of thing.
Where did we get the app from? Is it in the normal stores, or did we have to get a link for that?
We got a link
because we got a link for it. Yeah, because when it first started.
But mine was actually on the App Store.
All right, so if it's on the App Store, you should be able to download it, Richie. It might be because it's called Ellemnet, but there's also a matrix thing in it. It's called that. Is that called matrix as well? Something to do with a matrix?
Yeah, because it's a beta version or something. Got different things on it. Let's go check. You guys saw Dell's latest video today?
Nah, I won't watch him. Not now.
No, but let's quickly go to it. This is the one where...
Maybe we should watch things like that. He'd do my nothing.
But yeah, let's watch it, guys, and then we can give our commentary on it. Never mind. I first have to download it.
No doubt.
Well, I should be getting that RAM from my brother, and the new hard drive and stuff when he moves over now to Dublin. So that might help if it's got to do with the RAM that this is happening. So we'll see what happens.
You can't download it. The memory is moving up.
Okay. This is the video he put on for the Oakley crew. Try again. But let's listen to his argument, and then let's discuss why his argument's wrong. But I want you guys to listen to it, just so you understand.
About Dell. That's the end of your argument, Dell. Yeah, not all things go down. Some things go up. But as a phenomenon, we can explain why. Yeah? And as for, it's the density of the item. No. It's the density of the medium with respect to the item in it. Relative density. You don't even understand the title by the sounds of things. No, it's very specific. It's in the name. Relative density. And then disequilibrium. That would be the vector described in the phenomena. So we can categorize and disseminate our claims, which aren't necessary.
So this is to address these types of claims. So as we know, when we have the object, which would be this containment, with the water, which is a set density, and I drop the object within it, which remains a consistent density, the water remains a consistent density, then this is the effect that we observe. This is what would be relative density disequilibrium. You know, the relationship between the object and the medium that it's within, and we get that motion vector, and that's the question. How is that the case? So, as we can clearly see here, you know, then there we go, we have relative density disequilibrium. You know, nobody is disputing that fact whatsoever. Right? The fact that we're disputing is that, you know, the claim, again, it's the same vessel, it's the same density of medium, the same object with the same density. Yet, in free fall, when no longer connected to the Earth, your relative density disequilibrium ceases to be.
Hey, Brianna, thank you for coming. I just had to pause that to laugh and say, hey, Brianna, let's carry on. I'll get to this now as soon as the video's done. But
why do we continually avoid and evade, misrepresent the bare fact? This is the same with an air bubble rising or something buoyant rising. It ceases to move in free fall. So this is the point that's being made. Okay? There's a correlation between relative density disequilibrium, the motion vector, that being less dense materials rise, more dense materials sink. However, that is only the case when it's connected to the Earth.
false.
When in free fall, it ceases to be. Again?
Hi, no, not Dal. Save us all. Okay, so that's his argument, guys. I saw. What do we start on? First, he actually contradicts himself. He says that yes, there's relative density disequilibrium when he shows it here. Correct? He says, yeah, no one's disputing that. It's true. Then he moves here and says there's no such thing as relative density disequilibrium. Because it just ceases to exist.
That's what he said.
Not dropped it for long enough though to make that statement.
So, like remember when I asked him about the hot air balloon? And it gives exactly the same results. I mean, you can be in a flying aeroplane, guys, and you can let it do this exact thing that he's showing here. Are you attached to the Earth in an aeroplane? When you're flying 32,000 feet in altitude?
Certainly not.
No, you're not. But yet he's claiming it's the Earth that is giving the density layering.
Well, Tiger Bear says it migrates to the centre in free fall and then, because mass rejects nothingness, fella. Oh no, I thought that's not to do with that. So it's just the first one. I thought I was a continuation of that first one.
So yeah.
It migrates to the centre in free fall.
But I mean, then he's saying, oh, but the air and everything is velcro to the Earth, just like the globe is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
ignoring that air is unbonded, so you falling through the air has got nothing whatsoever, absolutely bugger all, to do with the earth. You are falling through the medium, the air. Now, like I tried to explain to Dell, and I'm going to explain it to him again, everything is falling at the same rate, Dell. There is a force. In this case, the apple has a force in the vector down towards equilibrium. Just like the bottle has a force with a vector down towards its equilibrium, which is the earth. Just like the box is also having the same accelerator value as well as the man. They are all moving at the same accelerative value. They all move with the same force, the same impulse rate. Hey Melissa, thank you for coming. Good to see you. So why would you expect, let's say this guy's denser than the apple, to say, oh, but I'm supposed to be going to the bottom before the apple? Why would you expect that if you are moving at the same rate, you have the same force applied to you? Do we see them change direction? Do they have momentum? Yes, they do. AKA, Newton's laws of motions apply. We saw momentum, therefore a force is applied. When Dal dropped that bowl, when Dal dropped this bowl and that, did the guy catch it with a force? Yes, he caught it with a force.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Professor Harvester, good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Excuse me.
So it's crazy. I mean, you can even see. I'm going to do this.
Free fall when no longer can.
We can even see now as it's dropping. Okay, look how uneven this the ball is going. Why? Because the air friction. It cannot have a force, aka friction, on it if it's not moving. Therefore, there's a force attributed onto the ball, and therefore it has a force on it, and therefore it is accelerating. Look at it. Look how uneven it's falling, guys. Uh-oh. And that was at a very low rate, a very low height. So yeah, Dal, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to go back to the drawing board, because everything you're showing contradicts the Newton's laws of motion. Yeah. So, I guess that's the show then, because everybody's so quiet.
That was decent. Your presentation was really good.
Melissa, if you watch from the beginning, I did an actual presentation. It might make more sense to you that way. Yeah, I think terminal velocity is the best, most concise proof against accelerating Earth, since friction is a force and must have an equal and opposite force. Exactly. That's what I was trying to explain. They have to ignore the first law of motion and the second law of motion to claim their accelerating Earth. And they just hand wave dismiss it, which is, to me, I think is just dishonesty. So, anybody else been able to show me a force or something moving without a force?
I could try, but I don't think I get very far.
Melissa says, if I put 1 gram on a digital scale and I drop it, if the weight of the gram would be less. No. No, it's falling at the same rate, so it won't read a weight reading. Because how the scale works, it works with what they call a load cell. So that that gram weight is pushing pressure on the load cell, which gives a weight reading. Melissa says, work at my nails. I don't know Melissa had a nail studio. That's quite cool. So yeah. I wonder if Raichi's going to be able to come in. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Raichi now for the last 5 minutes in chat, so
maybe try to sort it out. I don't know.
The bad guy says your hand waved is missing Dell though. No, definitely not. I got a whole presentation showing I'm not hand wave dismissing it. This whole thing shows it's not hand wave dismissing. This whole thing shows they are hand wave dismissing physics and reality. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Yeah, everybody's well quiet.
I can see that. So, kind of killed the mood now. We've gone through what we needed to say. Got nothing further to go.
Yeah, man, good show.
I
did. I really liked the presentation. It was well presented. It was self-explanatory. Well presented.
75.
That would take me ages to do
I'm starting to
something
think.
like
Yeah.
And you did it in a couple of days.
Just yesterday and today.
Wow, man, it took me a week to do that.
Yeah, Matt, you want to say something?
Oh, right, okay, right. Britannia wants me to say, can't PG say it's a brabrach moonlek the necht. Yeah, I can't say it, of course. It's a brabrach moonlek the necht, man. Aye, of course I can say it.
Matt,
I'm starting to think the upwards accelerating force is indeed a force, because I am exhausted fighting against it right now.
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, but like I said, I've given now the presentation. I've given them everything they need to know why it doesn't work. I've given them mechanics why RDD is a force and why it moves. I can't do more than what I've done now, so it's up to them to accept it or handwave dismiss it. That's I can't do anything further.
That's it. I want to know where Britannia Johnson heard that, because not a lot. It's a Scottish thing, isn't it?
It's Brianna.
Brianna
What do you mean?
Johnson. It's
Oh,
Brianna
what did I
Johnson.
say? Oh my God,
You say
sorry.
Britannia, it's
I
Brianna.
know. Oh my. Do you know why that is? Because there's a hotel here called Britannia, and it looks like the word just looks like Britannia, so that was in my head. So sorry, Brianna. So sorry. Oh my goodness.
Gunman,
But
yes,
yeah.
we do see your message, by the way. Black Eye says, why do more dense objects go down through less dense mediums? How is this not an issue with RDD? Huh? That's for RDD. The denser objects have more impulse. They have a greater force attributed to the surrounding medium, and therefore their magnitude is based on their momentum within the vector. Simple. We see a vector based on momentum change as the object has velocity through the medium. That's why it's down. It's seeking equilibrium.
That's it. Right, Brianna. Oh, you lived in Dunbar. Got you.
Mm-hmm.
That was my Dunbar. That was my grandmother's surname, Dunbar. Our maiden name, Dunbar.
Okay. So Neil.
I'm from Fraserburgh. That's way up northeast.
Hey, we got Media Don in as well. Neil's gone.
Oh yeah. Neil always jumps in and phases out.
How's it going,
I
Media
think
Don?
it's his signal.
Yeah.
Hey,
he does
Flatzoid.
struggle.
Oh, there it is.
Did you hear the presentation?
Yeah, I had the presentation.
I would like to know your input if you don't mind.
Okay. So I have a question, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
About relative density, more so in a vacuum. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody ask that, and I also thought it was intriguing because I was thinking the whole basis of relative density is relative density for basically density of different materials affects the speed of the rate of speed at which that thing falls.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah, you see the density has a relationship to the medium. So if you have a density object and you take the medium away, it cannot have a friction. You're taking the friction away, in other words. So it's not going to be able to have a huge difference because it's got to do with the relationship of the objects and the medium. So let's take the bowling ball and feather, for instance. If you drop a bowling ball and feather in air, there's friction to the feather and the bowling ball. But obviously the feather is is less denser than the bowling ball, and the friction is greater on the feather than the bowling ball. So it will take longer to hit the ground. Now when you take them and you stick them in water, the bowling ball is going to sink because it's still able to have a greater pressure. It's forcing itself through the medium, where the feather is now floating because the water is able to force the feather up because of its pressure. You understand? So it's got to do with the ratios. Now, if you take the medium all the way together, the bowling ball and the feather is going to fall at the same rate because the medium to object ratio is the same, because you got no medium to compare it with. There's no medium there. It's taken away. So it can only go down because there's nothing to support it.
Yeah, so is it possible I ask a follow-up on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the whole argument I was thinking is what causes the downward force. So my question is, in a vacuum, is there, for example, inside a vacuum, is there the downward force inside a vacuum? That was the question I was having. And so that was like the first question. And if it is true, there's a downward force inside a vacuum, why does all materials, regardless of the density, why do they all fall at the same rate? The reason why I'm asking this is because the whole argument is gravity versus relative density. And gravity is constant. It doesn't matter. So, like, for example, in the argument for gravity, we all understand the reason why feathers, for example, fall slower is because of air resistance. But how do you, so you can't really use air to measure gravity because of air resistance, and that's why you have to use a vacuum. So you use a vacuum because you've removed air resistance, and when you remove air resistance, the steel, feathers, everything, even the helium balloon falls at the same rate.
Yeah.
And so my question is, why, if relative density is the reason things fall down, why doesn't that also occur inside a vacuum? Because I was thinking, if RDD is the reason why things fall down, it means steel should fall faster even in a vacuum than maybe a helium balloon.
No. First of all, I have to tell you, gravity is not a force, so you can't falsely equivalent. And what was the thing changed every time when you try to expand it? You changed the medium, correct?
Is it possible, look, let me interject.
No.
You can't say gravity is not a force, because
I can.
Gravity is a force.
No, it's not.
You can definitely say that. It's
definitely
not
a force. Gravity is not a force. It hasn't been
and
seen.
And it can be cited as well.
Yeah, it hasn't been seen. It hasn't been seen as a force for 108 years already, Mediadon.
You see, this is the difference. I can have so many citations that say gravity is a force, but there's no way you can say density is a force.
Yes, I can. I gave the mechanics for it. I had a whole presentation with the mechanics giving it as a force. Now, like we're explaining to you, what was the thing that you changed when you said you're testing your beloved gravity? What was the thing that you took away? What is the cause that you manipulated?
Medium.
By saying manipulator, you mean testing inside a vacuum or what?
You took the medium away, correct?
Medium.
So did you take gravity away or did you take the medium away? Media?
Oh, inside a vacuum, you just remove air resistance, and that's why everything
Right. So
falls
you
in
remove the
the center.
medium.
The medium.
Yeah. So you remove the
No.
medium.
Gravity doesn't matter. Air, you see, gravity, even inside a vacuum, gravity still works.
Sorry, you claimed it's because of gravity. But the thing you manipulated was the medium, which is in contention because the thing that you're claiming is mass attracting mass, not the medium. So,
Okay.
I'm telling you, if the argument for relative density disequilibrium is the ratio of the object to the medium, and you remove the medium, you are proving relative density disequilibrium because you removed the ratio and expects it to have a different fall ratio when you remove the ratio.
Okay. Like okay. I didn't come to argue even about gravity. I was just wanting to understand RDD inside a vacuum, but
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. RDD in a vacuum works just like everywhere else because the object is applying a force relative to its surrounding medium. You remove the medium, where's it going to go? Back to its equilibrium point, which is where? Down, because there's no medium to support the object.
Yep.
Okay, I agree. It's a complex matter, but
It's actually very simple.
Okay,
It's actually very simple.
Okay.
It's not complex at all. Just like you say the helium balloon falls in a vacuum. Yes, helium falls in a vacuum because the balloon is denser than the medium that you removed.
Okay, let me ask a question. In RDD, does the density affect the speed at which something falls?
Relative to the medium, yes.
Exactly. So in RDD, you're saying something. For example, you see the thing is
and that's ignoring air resistance of shape. Remember, you got aerodynamics of a object. So if you're ignoring it, which you're probably going to try do now.
Yeah. So like the reason why I'm saying you can't really use RDD on just atmosphere is because of one thing. Air has density, and because it has density, it has buoyancy. You see, so for example, helium floats not because of any other thing. It floats because it's less denser than air. Exactly. So anything you argue about RDD and gravity, you can't really use it in the atmosphere because you have air present. Okay, let me quantify what I'm saying. Let me quantify. Do you know different gases have different weights and
different densities,
and the rate at which things fall in different gases will depend on the
gases don't fall. Gases don't fall, mate.
Yeah, gases I'm
go
saying,
in all directions.
Example,
all directions.
I'm saying a material inside a given gas will fall depending on the gas in which it is put in. For example, when you put something in helium, because it will fall at a different rate when you put it on something like argon, because they have different weights,
different densities,
and that is exactly what, and that is why I'm saying, if you want to
so you're proving it's medium based.
My point is you're basing RDD not even on anything. You are basing it on density of the atmosphere, because you have to remove the atmosphere.
Listen, Mediadon, you just made our point of relative density disequilibrium. You keep changing the medium. It is the ratio of the object relative to the medium. So every time you change the medium and you have a different result, means it's the relationship between the object and the medium, aka relative density disequilibrium.
And can I just add point? Well, can I just add, helium don't fall in a vacuum.
No gas falls.
Helium falls in a vacuum.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Helium balloon.
A balloon.
No.
A balloon falls.
The gas does, not the balloon.
If you pop that helium balloon, that helium would just
actually, Actually, everything falls inside a vacuum,
No,
even
no.
even air.
No, Mediadon?
There is
Mediadon, do you know
Yeah.
a balloon with helium inside a vacuum? You pop the balloon. What happens to the gas?
It will fall. It will go
No,
down.
no, no,
No,
no.
it'll fill up the space.
The pressure will
expand
build,
into available.
expand into the available volume. It's no longer a vacuum.
In all directions.
It's no longer a vacuum then, because now it has a larger gas pressure variant. And gas moves in all directions constantly. There's no such thing as gas going down, go boom, boom, as you want to fight for. Because I'm going to tell you, prove it. And you won't be able to.
Never.
Okay. I think, like, okay, let me just ask my main question. Like, when you're talking about RDD, what exactly? Why relative density? Like, what does it? Because what I was understanding is when you're saying relative density, what you are trying to say, the rate at which things fall down, it depends on the density. That is what I have got, and that's why I even joined.
And the shape and the medium. Remember, that's what has a relationship. So if you're changing the medium and you see the relationship has changed, you do know that you've just validated that it is the object to the medium ratio relationship. Why do you think an anvil floats in mercury?
Repeat that.
Why do you think an anvil floats in mercury?
Oh, okay. So, okay, I'll talk about relative density. For example, let us talk about maybe wood versus water. It's all about relative density. For example, if you have water, which is I think you know. Do you know how to calculate relative densities between two different objects?
You want to talk about Archimedes' principle?
Exactly. Why things float? You're asking why something floats and something is sink. It's because when a relative density is above 1, it will float.
Okay, I have to stop you there, Mediadon. First of all, you're pushing specific gravity onto us. This is not normal relative density. This is relative density disequilibrium.
And we're not asking any questions.
Yeah.
You've come here to ask, dude.
Yeah, and you pushing specific gravity, aka your relative density based on buoyancy. You do know Archimedes' principle came 1,900 years before your gravity was even postulated.
That's actually, I wanted to even talk about that because you keep on repeating that, and I think that doesn't even make a lot of sense. This is why. This is okay. Let me quantify that. I was listening to your stream a few. It's not this stream. Some stream back. You ask a question. For example, you said maybe gravity was discovered, I don't know, before, but ships were floating even before gravity was discovered.
Okay.
And this is the thing you need to understand. You need to understand that you can make things work without understanding how it works, because
sorry, Mediadon.
How?
First of all, gravity was not discovered. Okay? It is a construct. It was postulated, okay?
Exactly.
Okay? So it's a
my
belief.
question
Listen, no, I'm still talking, mate.
No problem. No.
Okay. And the fact that Archimedes' principle came 1,900 years before gravity was constructed, and they had ships working off of Archimedes' principle, means they understood what Archimedes' principle was. There was just no G in it. You guys are counting G to it.
That is a perfect. That is exactly what I was even talking about. You see, you are trying to say you have to understand the science behind something for you to do something in nature, and that is not the case. You see, there's a difference between a person who studied science and a person who hasn't. You can, for example, somebody who is even illiterate, like let us talk even about indigenous groups of people. They have boats, they have everything. They do not understand how it works, but that is not. They just know. For example, wood floats, and when I combine many woods. Let me just finish. They know when I combine many woods, it will float. But they do not understand how it floats. So you
That's
cannot
false.
say.
You are appealing.
see, the
You're
thing
appealing
is-
to know what they know and don't know. How
no.
are you able? Are you some sentient being that's able to know what a person knows and doesn't know?
Okay, let me repeat my question. There are two things. There's a scientific approach to things, and there's an unscientific thing to approach. Like, for example, you can do things you don't understand how it works, but you know it works. For a scientist, they have to go and study a lot of and do a lot of calculations. So these two are not the same. You don't have to understand the science behind something to make it work. For example, do you know even in indigenous groups, even they don't have any education, they still build bamboo boats and things like that. Do they even understand how G is calculated? Do they understand buoyancy? Do they even know what science is? They don't.
Sorry. G is a man-made construct. Why do they need to know how G works if it's a man-made construct?
They don't need to know that for things to work, and that is why science
no, you don't know what science is. First of all, you're pushing G onto something that worked without G for 1,900 years. They built ships without the use. Listen to me. They built ships on the knowledge of Archimedes' principle.
They did not know even Archimedes' principle. How do you know they know Archimedes' principle?
Listen.
How can you say, do Africans, Chinese, everybody, did they all these people know Archimedes' principle before they build boats?
It's displacement of pressure, yes.
They did not know Archimedes' principle.
If you throw a hollow log into the water and it floats, it displaces, correct?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Does it displace not, Mediadon?
It displaces.
Okay, now I want you to keep quiet. That is Archimedes' principle. Do you need to know that it's displacement?
You don't need to know Archimedes' principle.
Listen. But does it require gravity, or is it just simply displacement?
Okay, so this is the thing. Displacement is not related to gravity.
Great. So Archimedes' principle is not related to gravity. He just conceded that. Relative density disequilibrium explains the displacement based on Archimedes' principle. You just conceded throwing a wooden log into the ocean, into the water, because of its displacement, not gravity, it floats. So therefore, relative density disequilibrium on your account just worked. Thank you very much.
No. You are okay. That is not what I've said. So you are.
So it won't work.
Those are two different things. Floating and displacement are not the same thing.
That's exactly what it is. That's what floating is.
You can displace.
What are you talking about? Of course it is.
No, it's not the same.
Okay,
let me prove my point.
If you pull a beach ball under the water, and you let it go, and it goes up to the top, what's it doing? It's floating. It's floating.
Okay, look, I'm the one who created the point. Let me explain my point. Let me explain my point because I've not explained. Let us see. This is what displacement is. For example, you can put a steel ball inside inside the water. It will displace the water, but it does not float. And you can have something that floats, and you can have something that doesn't float and it displaces.
Does it displace its own weight, Mediadon, or does it just displace the pressure around it?
It will displace its.
You know,
its
shape matters. You know, shape.
Display its own,
Mediadon.
It doesn't display. It displaces mass, not weight. Those are two different things.
Let's do it this way. You saw on my thumbnail, I had a iceberg floating in the water.
Yeah.
90% of the iceberg was underneath the water, correct?
Yeah.
And 10% on top.
Exactly.
Displacement, correct?
Don't you?
So not gravity then?
You see, the thing is, for something to float, it needs gravity.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Because
We
buoyancy has to have gravity.
No, it doesn't. Archimedes' principle is the buoyancy equation.
No. Archimedes' principle is just displacement of mass. It doesn't explain floating and all this.
What is density and buoyancy, Media?
Density and buoyancy is exactly what you are trying to say. For example, for something to be buoyant, it obviously there has to be a relative density in action. You see. So what was the other question? Buoyancy and density. Density is just how much mass is in a given volume.
It's the displacement of
Density.
the object. If it can displace enough, it can float.
Displacement of,
if it displaces enough pressure of the object forcing itself onto the water, then it can float. Remember when I was talking about impulse in my presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the force attributed to the amount of time it's pressing.
Can you repeat that? Impulses?
The force attributed to the amount of time it's pressing.
The mass attributed to?
Amount of time it's forcing itself onto.
Time, okay.
So, if a boat is forcing itself onto the water and it's displacing enough of its own weight, it's forcing itself to displace it further. You understand how pressure works. The larger surface area, the larger surface area, the more spread out, so therefore less force, correct? Because it spreads out the force over the surface area. That's exactly how Archimedes' principle works. Gravity is not needed. Just because you guys stick your beloved G into it doesn't mean it needs to work with it. It worked 1,900 years without your bullshit gravity belief.
That is, you see, the reason I'm just saying, like, you cannot say because it wasn't discovered.
It wasn't discovered. It was created.
Like it's you see, the thing is, Flatzoid. I told you, science is the whole point of science is trying to explain.
Dude, you don't know science if it hits you in the face.
Science explains what we see daily. For example, we see light. We know sun rays, how they come. Everybody knows.
How do you know that? How do you know how the sun rays come? Give us the scientific hypothesis for sun rays.
This is the thing.
Give us the scientific hypothesis for sun rays.
Okay. Okay. Let us use rainfall, for example. Let us use rainfall.
No, don't change. Give us the scientific hypothesis for sun rays.
You see,
I'm waiting.
I am the person. I created. It was an analogy. I'm saying, for example, rain.
Cheers, Michael. Thank you for coming, mate.
Can
see you later, Michael, man. See you in the morning. Talk to you tomorrow.
For example, let us talk about rain. You can go out and you see rain. You just know, okay, it's raining and it's good. You know, it's water. But a scientist will now go to try and explain how that happens. So you cannot say because it wasn't discovered what caused rain.
Listen,
so people did not know rain.
Media. There's a difference between correlation and causation. Okay.
Exactly.
I can correlate that the sun comes up every day because I wake up. Okay? Does that mean the sun comes up? No, that's why science specifically deals with the cause for the effect. So, you say scientists scientifically figured out the sun rays. So, I want the hypothesis for sun rays, please.
You see, what you are not understanding is science doesn't cause the feature. Science explains it.
It's a cause and an effect relationship.
Okay, let us talk about cancer.
Stop changing the subject.
Changing from one topic to the other.
Media Don,
no.
You made a claim.
You are not understanding.
You made a claim. No, I understand 100%. Did you make a claim or not that sun rays is scientifically validated? Did you make the claim? Did you make the claim? Did you make the claim that the sun rays are scientific?
No, you see, you're not understanding the whole.
Did you make the claim? Yes or no?
This is the claim I'm making. Okay, let us use sun, for example. A person can see the sun coming up and maybe it's sun and sunset. They can create different. So, for example, traditional people said it's God who is rising up, and some people even worship the sun. So the thing is, just because the sun, for example, let us talk about sunrise and sunset. there's a scientific explanation for sunsets and sunrise.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there's a way,
Hypothesis for sunset and sunrise, please.
you see, you're not understanding my point. We
You
were
claiming
talking
science.
about Archimedes. We were talking about Archimedes and gravity,
you
and I was
claiming-
and I was talking to you about that. It's just like cancer, for example.
Media. You just made a claim again. Science
It is not
for
a claim.
sunrise and
It
sunset.
is not
Give me the
It
hypothesis.
is an analogy. Don't you understand what an analogy is?
Science is not analogy based. Science is
No.
causative based. So
Oh
you
my
made
goodness.
a claim that the
I am the
sunrise
person
and
who is
sunset.
talking.
You made the
I'm
sun.
not talking about sunset and sunrise. I'm
You just said
saying
it.
you can see something and not know the scientific explanation for it. That is just what I'm saying, and that is the whole point. For example, that's why you're saying even cancer. We all know cancer exists, but people are trying to know how does some cancers form. You see. So the thing is, you can't now come and say, for example, when they find out, they later come and discover how a certain form of cancer forms. You can't say because they discovered how this thing forms in 2020, let's say 2023. So you say the cancer did not exist. That is the same thing you're saying.
No one says it can't exist.
Boats. You are saying boats were, people used to have boats in the past, and you say gravity was postulated.
Again, Media Don. Archimedes' principle did not have G in its equation for 1,900 years. Did boats work off of Archimedes' principle or not?
You see, that is the.
It's a simple yes or no.
No. You're accusing Archimedes' principle, no.
So he didn't know. People didn't use Archimedes' principle.
So before Archimedes,
can I finish
before
talking?
Archimedes, there are no boats.
Listen. So for 1,900 years, people
before
used.
Archimedes, were there boats or not?
For 1,900 years, people used Archimedes' principle.
Before Archimedes, were there boats?
Dude, keep quiet or I'm going to mute you. Okay, I'm talking. For 1,900 years, people used Archimedes' principle. They used it. They took the principle and built boats from that principle. It had
and
no.
My question to you
it
is,
had no.
Even before
I'm talking. I'm still talking.
There were boats.
I'm still talking. It had no gravity because it was not postulated. The boats worked based on the principle, showing that it does not need your beloved gravity, and you guys pushing gravity on it is just your belief that it needs gravity. Okay? Boats existed before Archimedes' principle, but Archimedes' principle came and explained the reason why the boats worked.
Exactly.
Now, it doesn't need gravity because gravity is bullshit. Gravity is not a force.
Archimedes did not understand the need for gravity because it was not yet postulated.
How the flippin' hell
and
can
I
you
have a
build a
question.
ship?
I have a question.
No, you can keep. No, how the hell can you build a ship? How the hell can you build a ship? Okay.
Put it there. It's fine. Honestly, let's do it.
Sorry, PJ.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was on mute. I was talking to Harvey. Sorry. But
sorry. I'm saying, how the hell can you build a ship based on a principle and then claim that's not how the principle works?
How can you?
They built ships based on a principle. Okay?
They did not build ships based on Archimedes' principle. They built ships
Bullshit.
because they just understood. Because they understood wood displaces water, or no, not even displacement.
Archimedes' principle. Congratulations. Congratulations.
They just knew wood floats.
Archimedes' principle. Congratulations.
Archimedes discovered the whole correlation between. Actually, Archimedes, if I'm not wrong, Archimedes discovered displacement, and even you don't. So how can I even say this? Even something that doesn't even float, even anything, as long as you put something totally deep.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you another thing. Can boats float without displacement?
It will definitely need displacement.
Great. So Archimedes' principle holds true. You require the displacement to work. So they use Archimedes' principle to work out how they need to shape the holes and have enough displacement for the ships to be able to float. It's a different story building a ship and compared to a little canoe hollowed out tree branch. It's totally different.
You see, the thing is, you are trying to say the people even before Archimedes, they are like they knew Archimedes' principle.
No,
they just
I didn't
knew
say that.
if
That's a
they just,
misrepresentation of what I said. That's a straw man.
exactly, and you're also strawmanning my argument.
No, I'm not. You claiming gravity is required for Archimedes' principle, and I'm telling you it's not.
Exactly. You can't actually for something to float, for buoyancy to act, it has to have gravity.
No, it doesn't.
And so this is
No,
this is
it
actually
doesn't,
my
Media
question.
Don. It does not
So-
require gravity. Gravity is not a force, for Pete's sake. Get it in your head. It's 100 years outdated. It is not a force. Therefore, it cannot keep to Newton's laws of motion. Therefore, it cannot have any dispersion.
You see, no matter how many times you say gravity is not a force, it's a force. You see, and that's why we calculate it
No.
as a force.
No.
Even
Just
most of the
because you
globe,
repeat it a million times doesn't make it right, my friend.
even the globers turn around and say it's not a force. It's
a force.
it's not a force, but
It's
it
not a
acts as a force. But that's what they say. They don't say it's a force. They say
Meteor?
It doesn't
it acts as
matter.
a
The
force.
thing is,
Meteor?
you see, it doesn't matter if it acts as a force or it doesn't. The thing is, it's a force.
No, it's
No,
not.
Whether
wow.
you repeat, you can
No,
repeat
it's
it. You
not.
can repeat that a million times.
Oh,
it doesn't change the
goodness.
fact.
Media Don.
Wow.
It's not.
Yeah, you can
Media
repeat it a million times.
Media Don. Just because you're hand waving, dismissing your own religion here, doesn't make it a force. Gravity is not a force. It has
It's a
never.
force.
Give me, okay, you know what? Show me gravity as a force. Go ahead.
You see, this is how I can show you gravity as a force. You see, you see, how can you, for example, buoyancy? You guys like to talk about helium balloons going up. You don't
I
understand.
gave the mechanics behind it. Don't tell me I don't understand. I asked you a specific thing. Show me gravity as a force.
Show you gravity as a force. See, gravity is a force. I don't have to show you that.
Show me gravity as a force.
Inside a vacuum, it doesn't matter the density. It doesn't matter the density.
That's relative density disequilibrium.
They will all
Congratulations.
fall down at the same rate.
Relative density disequilibrium. So you're saying gravity is medium?
Gravity is?
Medium, because you took the medium away. So is that gravity now?
You see, the thing is, you see, I was trying to even ask myself. You like to talk about RDD. Now I was wondering, how can you test that?
Can you stick to
For example,
one? Can you stick to
I'm
one
go-
topic, please? You
I'm
claim
going-
gravity.
I'm
You claim
going there.
gravity is a force. I said, show me it's a force.
I'm
Now you're
going
telling
there.
me. No. Now you're
I'm
telling
going
me.
there. I'm
Now
going
you're
there.
telling me taking the medium away is
I'm going
gravity.
there. I'm going there. Inside a vacuum, it doesn't matter the density. Everything falls at the same rate.
Because the
That shows
medium.
you- that-
Congratulations. What did you
that
take
shows
away?
us-
What did you manipulate? Gravity or the medium?
I removed air resistance.
The medium. The medium.
No. I did not remove. Yeah, okay. You remove the medium to remove air resistance.
So it's not
And that
gravity then. Congratulations.
It's gravity. Gravity doesn't depend on air. Gravity works inside air. Inside
Then
a
why
vacuum.
you
It doesn't matter.
then why are you removing the medium then if it doesn't depend on the medium?
To remove air resistance.
So it's not gravity then, it's the medium.
You see, the thing is,
Show
you can't
me
even-
gravity.
there's
Show
nothing-
me gravity as a force media. Stop going and removing the medium, which is relative density disequilibrium, and telling me gravity is a force. Show me gravity as a force.
I've already explained to you. Just because you don't understand doesn't mean you are right.
Stop projecting your ignorance onto me. Time
No,
to
no,
grow
you are the
up.
person who is ignorant.
Time to grow up and show
You are
me
the person who
gravity.
need to grow up
Show
and
me
start
gravity
doing
as a force, Media Don, because gravity is not seen as a force for 108 years already. Are you saying
It doesn't
Einstein
matter.
is wrong?
It doesn't matter. Because people are ignorant doesn't mean gravity is not
Yes,
there.
you are ignorant. I
That
understand.
is not an argument, my friend.
Yes, you
Just
are
because
ignorant.
you do not,
Yeah.
Just because you don't understand how something works doesn't mean it does not exist. That is being stupid, my friend.
First, you have to prove it exists before claiming it to exist. So I'm asking you.
It has been proven inside a vacuum, 9.8 meters per second.
That is
You remove
relative
the medium.
density.
You remove the medium. For example, You see, you don't even understand what relative density is. Inside the
My
vacuum,
God, what are you
it is
talking
true.
about?
You don't understand what relative density is.
Oh my God.
You
Okay,
don't understand what relative density.
Mediadon,
And
Mediadon, let's take that vacuum chamber, okay?
is it possible I just explain why?
Wait. Let's take that vacuum chamber. You got a cork in there. It's sitting on the ground. Now you fill it up with water. It's no longer a vacuum chamber. Now it's a water chamber. What's happening to the cork?
It will float.
Great. Now we take the water out and we just put normal gas pressure in there. What's happening with the cork?
So, repeat that point.
Now we take the water out and we put just normal air pressure into the container. What's happening to the cork?
Normal air pressure.
Yeah.
Like the atmosphere, it will sink down, obviously.
Great. Now we make it a vacuum again just with the cork. What happens?
We make it a vacuum with a cork. There won't be any big difference.
Great. So what did we change in all those scenarios, Don?
The medium.
So not gravity then, you ignorant retard.
No. Okay. You have asked me a question. Let me ask you a question. You are talking about relative density. We need to calculate that. You see, the thing is, you see in the atmosphere, for example, you need to understand what relative density is. Relative density is just density of a given material divided by
that's specific gravity. That's specific gravity. We're talking about relative density
for example,
disequilibrium.
In atmosphere, you need to know in that place, there's humidity, there's different gases. You need to understand what is the density of that air. Then anything you put there, for example, it will now be there's the whole thing about Archimedes. For example, a helium balloon, you need to go and calculate what is the relative density compared to atmosphere. If it is 1 and above, if it is 1 and below, it will always float.
Again, Mediadon, the density,
and that is my point.
The density gives its vector, okay? The force listen, can I finish talking? The density gives its vector, okay? The force, can you shut up for more than 2 seconds? The object applying a force relative to the medium gives its magnitude.
Density does not have a vector. Density is not it's just
Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion.
Where does that say density has a force?
I thought you watched my presentation, Mediadon. I explained every single thing to you, why it has the vector it does and why it moves, and the reason it moves based on physics, Newton's laws of motion, the first law and second law. Did you not pay attention, Mediadon?
So is it possible now I ask my question? I had stated that you do not understand what relative density is.
No, you don't understand. You keep pushing. You keep pushing.
I wanted to ask one question.
You've asked 100 questions and you keep pushing your specific gravity onto me. Again, relative density disequilibrium is not specific gravity. Learn the difference, you ignorant retard.
I know it's not gravity. I know it's not gravity.
You are pissing me off, mate. You are pissing me off. And people don't piss me off easily, but you are pissing me off because you are so ignorant. You don't understand the difference.
You are. You just want to jump in and talk. And when you talk, see, you're doing it now. I'm trying to tell you something. You just jump in and talk. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to be talking while you were interrupting me.
You can finish. I can listen. No problem.
Oh, well, I'm finished. On you go. Talk.
The problem I have with RDD is just one thing. There's no any formulas. There's nothing. It is just talk. It's based on opinion. There's no any citation. There's nothing.
Sorry. F equals ma explains relative density.
I just wanted you to go I just wanted you to go to even one citation and say the
citation. Why must I give a citation? Why must I give a citation? Why must I give a citation when I just gave you a whole presentation on why it moves?
It is a presentation based on misrepresentation of laws. And that is not a citation.
Misrepresentation.
I can create my own presentation and misrepresent everything and say that is a citation. That is not a citation.
Sorry. When I pick up an apple, for instance, okay, based on Newton's second law, do I see momentum change from position 1 time 1 to position 2 time 2?
A momentum change.
Momentum change, yes. Did the object move, in other words, from position 1
definitely.
to position 2? So you would agree there's a force attributed to it?
Which is gravity.
No, gravity is not a force, you moron. Okay?
Gravity is a force. That is
my God.
Oh, you know what? This
How
is,
many times?
You can repeat it 1 billion times. Doesn't mean you are right, my friend.
Even your own religious crew say it. It's not a
Gravity
force, but
is
it
the
acts as a force. Oh, my goodness.
And that is why.
Right, show me. We can show you other forces how they work. Show us how gravity force works. Show us.
A good explanation of how gravity
No,
works.
I don't want an explanation. Show me.
I can show you. You can go, for example, to test gravity.
Mediadon. In general relativity, gravity is not a force between masses. Instead of gravity is an effect of the warping of space and time in the presence of mass, without a force acting upon it.
Exactly. The same way you've searched that. Search is gravity a force. Just search gravity is
For
gravity a
fuck's
force.
sakes, you idiot
Oh
moron.
my goodness.
Gravity,
Why is gravity not a force? Now search
gravity is not a force.
It is a force.
It is not seen as a force for 108 years out of date. Okay?
That you see, that is
Einstein
we already
wrong?
talked about that.
Is Einstein wrong?
Is Einstein wrong? You see, the thing is
Einstein wrong?
And so was the thing is, and then you don't explain shit.
Let me explain. let me explain this.
You haven't explained one thing yet.
Last chance, Mediadon. Last chance. You going to answer me? No, you going to answer me. Is Einstein wrong, Mediadon?
Let me explain.
Yes or I'm going to boot you. Is Einstein wrong or not, Mediadon?
Einstein explained what caused gravity.
Is Einstein wrong or not? That is the question.
Einstein is right, and gravity is real.
Kick this guy out. I had enough of this guy.
So thank you.
Freaking nuts now. Flatzoid showed it to you over and over again.
Neil, you're stupid.
Media, you're talking rubbish. You say, let me explain. And what do? You don't explain. You just start talking crap, talking over people, saying gravity is a force. When your own group tell you gravity is not a force, it acts as a force.
Let me explain why.
Let you explain.
No,
you keep saying that.
Yourself. Listen, you proved it yourself. You proved relative density disequilibrium over and over and over again.
Why are you
still saying gravity? Shut up.
Why are you so pissed, Neil?
Because you're a moron.
You're full of crap.
Yeah.
Why are you so pissed?
Because you're dishonest.
I was trying to explain. Okay, let me just go ahead and explain it.
Because you keep claiming gravity. It's not even a force. It's been repeated. It's affecting the space-time. You jerk off.
Neil, whether you cry or not, it doesn't change the fact that gravity is a force, man.
Bye.
Oh my goodness.
You can cry, you can do whatever you want.
Cheers.
Cry? Why would I cry over you, dude?
You know what? If the guy's so dishonest, he can't even accept his own globe rhetoric.
No.
Cheers.
Unbelievable.
Enough is enough. Note, guys, I asked him how much questions and he hasn't answered one of them. Not one. And while he was talking, he was keep on trying to push specific gravity onto us, and doesn't understand specific gravity is not relative density disequilibrium.
That's it.
And all the guy did was overtalk me. He did a Craig. That's all he did. A FTFE. And
that's why I'd say something. He was just full of it. He did a lot of talking, but there was nothing explained.
So sorry, Media Don, but if that's how you're going to act and be so dishonest, then you're not welcome here.
Hey, Flats, can we expound on that? What is the main difference between specific gravity and relative density disequilibrium?
Very simple. Specific gravity is based on their buoyancy and density model caused by the force of gravity. Relative density disequilibrium has no gravity attributed, but the object has a force, aka what I was trying to explain tonight, with an impulse and magnitude, and it has impulse. So therefore it has the object having a weak force as it's forcing itself with time on the medium. So it's forcing itself through the medium. So it has a force. Gravity is not a force, so therefore you cannot attribute gravity to relative density disequilibrium. But they take specific gravity, which is just normal density buoyancy, which is only up and down. So it's a 1 and a 0, in other words. And they're trying to say, oh, you see, but you guys claim now not gravity, but you're using this. They're trying to say, but it's not a force because it only sets direction.
Okay, a follow-up question. The term buoyancy, has that term changed meaning over time?
Yes, it has, because Archimedes' principle was about the buoyancy. And like I said, it was about the displacement that the object was having on the surrounding medium. They went and they took it and they decided to place their G in the equation and say, you see, it's the G that's causing that boat to be forced down into the medium. Instead of understanding that boat itself is being supported because of the displacement of its pressure it's having pushing on the medium around it.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
So it's actually very simple. It's just pressure, guys. The key word here is pressure. Actually, you know what? There we go, Mr. Sleeping Warrior. You're a admin. So yeah, guys, I can't believe that guy pissed me off royally now. He got my. I mean, it's not easy to get my blood pumping with these guys, but this guy.
Pissed you off, Flatzoid.
I know.
You're gonna have a heart attack in here.
I know. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. We had to interrupt. Yeah, but Flatzoid even made you swear. You used the F word. You don't often say that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Flatzoid's a saint, dude. I don't know how you put up with him that long.
No, I like the way Flatzoid made him prove it over and over again.
He did.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then he comes and tells me I don't understand.
That's like that guy, that other guy. Remember? He challenged you about what did he challenge you about that time?
Thermodynamics.
Yeah, right, and then when you well, you don't understand. You beat me, but you're wrong.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Jeff
That was funny. I remember that was funny.
Yeah. Jeff Conkle says, "Careful, too much pressure can give you a stroke." That's true.
Well.
Yeah, Richard G.
So what are we gonna do with this Rachie now? Because she's saying, why do things go down? In other words,
there's no
because they're.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a downward bias, guys.
No, she's saying, okay, so things are more dense than air. Why not up? Why not left? Why not right? This is what's said in chat.
Because I explained it. Because F equals ma. The force requires the momentum change. So when I picked it up, where's its disequilibrium point? I picked it up, remember? So the disequilibrium point is to the bottom, and the medium cannot support the object. The object has an impulse on the medium around it. And what is the impulse? It's the force attributed over time. And what is gas?
Okay, that works with a leaf as well.
Yeah, a leaf as well. Everything. So just like you got gas that's hitting at it all the time, gas is unbonded, so it's just hitting it with a force and moving away. That's what pressure is. That's what got psi. But it hasn't got enough to support it. So therefore, the object will fall. Now put it in water. The impulse is as if it is at rest if it is displaced enough pressure, because it's like taking two balls and sticking it like my presentation where I have these two balls sitting here. Remember, the one was a very dense object. It was rock solid, and the other one had some elastic collision. Now they had different impulse rates when they bounced. I mean, it took longer, so it had more of a force and less of a force. But what happens when they stopped moving, when they're just sitting at rest on the floor? They have the same amount of force because they're sitting on the table still. They're in rest. So therefore, it's at equilibrium, you can say, at its relative equilibrium point. So when you have a boat on the water, for instance, it's displacing that force being attributed by the ball, and therefore the impulse is exactly the same as a floating log or whatever, because the force attributed to it is exactly the same based on the time it sits with the medium.
Got it. But why is she struggling with this?
I have no idea.
One of her things, let me read this quick. It says RD. I lost it. Son of a gun. Oh, no, I got it. It says RDD still exists. It just has an external cause.
No.
It is not a cause of itself. Density and buoyancy doesn't cause density and buoyancy, and relative density disequilibrium doesn't cause RDD.
It's simple. When you pick up an item and we see it fall, it has a momentum, it has impulse. The impulse is a weak force over time. That force is the object trying to force itself through the medium. Remember, it's medium dependent. If the medium's not able to support the object, it will force itself through it to seek equilibrium. It's denser, so where's its equilibrium point? Down. Why? Because the medium cannot support it. If it's less denser, where's its equilibrium point? Up.
Right. So if a helium balloon was caught in a tree and it finally got loose, it's going up.
Exactly. Not because of as they say, you don't have a vector based on relative density. It does. That's what impulse is. A balloon has an impulse vector upwards, where a rock has an impulse vector downwards, because it's either pushing down or it's pushing up.
Got it. And I'm sorry, Dell just made a contraption up. Nathan's right. It doesn't happen in nature. I'm not even going to pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, they took a car with a water bottle and say, you see, I have acceleration, and it ignoring it's because of the conservation of momentum and energy. That's why you see that. And then saying, therefore, the Earth must also be accelerating up when I just make it vertical. That's ignorance on a whole different level. You can't just make false equivocation and say, because I can do a demonstration of a water bottle in a car, and when I accelerate, the water goes to the back, so therefore Earth must also be accelerating up because I see density layers. That's just ignoring physics. That's plain and simple, just ignoring physics. There's physics behind it, why that happens. That's what I was trying to explain today. Why we have the physics behind that. And then they go and ignore the Earth. If it was accelerating upwards, you wouldn't have things like terminal velocity on an object. The reason we see terminal velocity alone on an object debunks their claim of accelerating Earth, because you require a force for a terminal velocity to exist.
The word for today has to be myocardial infarction.
Well, the guy came in Nathan's today too, right, Bill? The guy came in Nathan with the same thing, promoting gravity.
Myocardial malfunction. What?
A myocardial infarction.
Myocardial infarction. What? Malfunction.
Myocardial infarction.
Faction.
What are you speaking Italian?
It's a massive heart attack.
Okay.
Robert De Niro does that. Robert De Niro's waiting, talking Italian. Ooh, bugger. It fell off my chair.
How do you spell that?
THAT.
You just speak into the text.
Cardiomegaly isn't a disease, but okay, that's something else. Cardiomegaly, what is it? An enlarged heart.
It's myocardial infarction.
Myocardio. M-I.
M-Y.
M-Y.
Myocardial infarction.
Hey, Flatzoid, I think you got to turn the heat up.
A cardium. What do you mean I got to turn the heat up?
As soon as my brother answers the phone, I'll let you know.
Okay. Oh, myocardium.
Okay.
Is it
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
myocardial infraction? Oh, okay. You see, that's I can. That makes sense.
Yeah, I heard a pastor say the other night that freaking GPS. Right when I'm at the point, the GPS comes in. I heard this preacher saying, sin has a pull, like a gravitational pull. So, like, we got to get through to these Christians and pastors somehow. We got to break through, man.
Definitely. It's crazy. I mean, the globe has weaved itself so badly into everything that it doesn't matter which way you turn, there's some globe push somewhere. So it's myocardial infraction, colloquially known as heart attack, is caused by disease, decreased or complete cessation of blood flow to a portion of the myocardium. The myocardial infarction. What a weird name, infarction. May be silent and go
Flatzoid. You got Flatzoid all worried now.
Why? No, I'm not worried. There's a new word I learned, so I'm I'm excited to learn new words. So yeah, that was we actually had a nice long stream, believe it or not. I see someone's in watching on Twitch. Hi, Twitch user. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Always good to see someone on Twitch as well. I mean, my background right now is showing that there's no such thing as accelerating Earth, because those people have a force on them. They have force attributed. They're going up and down relative to each other while falling at the same rate. How are they able to accelerate and decelerate while they're all falling in the same reference frame, Raichi? Try ask that yourself. How are they doing that if it's the Earth moving and not them? They have friction on them, which means there's a force acting on them. Accelerated Earth, gone. At the end of the day, there's a force acting on them. The globe has no force. Accelerating Earth has no force. Relative Density Disequilibrium does. Jolly Man, the scientific studies regarding cell damage orientating from exotic radio and microwaves have been hidden from us ionized, non-ionized BS. James Gerbert, wind. So there's a force then. Friction. So, you guys have any closing statements before we close off?
The guy in media, he said scientists were concerned with calculations.
Yeah, the guy doesn't know science, even if it hit him in the face.
Right.
No.
I mean, very sophisticated deductions, right? Logical deductions like if A, then B, not A, therefore not B.
Yeah, that's what I say. Correlation is not causation. And all he was trying to do was, well, today we have G in Archimedes' principle, so therefore it means gravity exists. No, it doesn't. they're just pushing their belief onto something that's been working for 1,900 years before it even got postulated. They used the principle for a reason. Yeah, Rachie, more surface area means more drag. So a force, friction. Friction is a force. So therefore, the people are moving. Thank you, Gaining Wisdom. Good. Friction is an effect of motion. Mm-hmm. Rachie, I don't know what's keeping you with this accelerating Earth. There's so much showing that it's not it. But yeah, good point, Matt. Anybody else have anything to say?
It's just, I don't know. It's, I don't know. That media don, he was just coming in and just talking rubbish. It's like he's got to explain something. Let me explain. You can let him explain. He just starts talking crap. Then it's your turn to talk. He just won't shut up. It's hard.
Sorry, Taylor says 4 more hours or a wrap. Yeah, like I said, tomorrow morning I just want to see if I can just clean that wrap a bit before I put it up. Just sounds a bit better. Yeah, what would I rap about though? Why it's not an accelerating Earth? I don't know. Sorry, PJ.
Sorry.
Flatzoid's perspective. Sleeping Warrior debunked me. He did? Maybe. Well, what's your? Nah, I'm not gonna. Jeff Conkle, I'm going to demonstrate RDD on my bottle of whiskey. That's a good one. I still got a bit of wine, to be honest. I should actually finish it. The cousins are calling me, but that'll be tomorrow. It's too late now. It's bedtime.
That's what Julie's been doing. She's been drinking wine with her brother tonight. she's literally just told me. It's weird that.
Yeah.
On WhatsApp, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always the same. I mean, with it. Oh God, when it comes to he's saying that you don't understand. You don't understand RDD. I'm like, what did he show that you understood? He didn't show anything, did he? He just kept trying to talk rubbish.
The sad thing is, he's telling me I don't understand while he's making my point over and over and over.
Exactly.
So yeah. So I'm gonna say that was a good show. I'm actually got a bit of a headache.
No, don't tell me him. He is ahead in it. I mean, wow. If he's got a wife, she must she must hide from him.
Sleeping Water says I must play a video from 1 minute onwards.
Fresh water mixes different densities due to variation in
oh, this is a good video. Yes, this is a good video. I just got to quickly put back to presenting. Okay.
Do you know that thing I was asked to say earlier? It's a bra brechen moonlicht nacht.
Yeah.
That Scottish thing. I mean, if it's translated, it doesn't really make sense because it means it's a bra. It means it's a good moonlight night tonight. Well, It does make sense a bit. I suppose it does make sense a bit. Yeah, it's just a bit. It does actually. Thinking about it.
Where is the skydiving in South Africa? It looks cool by the coast. Skydiving's all over by us actually. That was just one I took off the internet though. They got like in Cape Town, Durban. They got even here by me. You can practically go skydive anywhere you want to, as long as you just commission someone who's got a parachute and a plane. I mean, I'm literally 150 meters away from our little airport here, And I'm sure if I wanted to talk to the right people, I could also use it to skydive here as well, which is really cool. But yeah. Okay, this is a video Sleeping Warrior said we must start watching for 1 minute.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Sounds cool.
Oh, do I really have to download it? It just worked.
Oh, wow. Why is it starting to do that? For a while you didn't have to download it, and now it's gone back to it.
Yeah. It's part of the curse of YouTubeness. Okay, let's go. I think the computer's just saying it's sleep time, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my computer. Paul sent it off today, I think, so we'll get that soon.
Yep.
My laptop. I haven't got a clue how to work it. I'll have to find out.
Mix water at
I'm
two
gonna
different
start it,
temperatures together. In this side, I have cold tap water. We're going to mark that with blue food coloring. In this side, I have hot tap water. We'll mark that with red food coloring.
Yeah, I've seen this as well before. It's actually very interesting. Remember, different temperature waters give different densities, guys. Just like when one's more saline or the energy change gives its density change.
Yeah, it's like a river going into the sea. The river's fresh water.
I mean,
then you've got the delta. You've got the delta where it mixes. And then you know what I mean. They're different into the salt, and that's different densities.
Or how about when you were younger and you go to a public pool and you feel a warm patch high up when someone peed in the.
Oh wow, man!
I just had
did you ever pee in the pool?
Of course, come on. Who was a kid?
Yeah, everybody's peed in the pool, isn't it? Yeah, man.
I'm going to open the gate, allowing the two temperatures to mix. As you can see, there's a distinct separation between the two temperatures. The less dense red water is on top, and the denser blue water is on the bottom. Just to contrast this, we're going to show you what happens when we mix water that's at the same temperature.
Yep. Yeah, this is just showing the lateral displacement. It's just showing displacement based on their energies here. There we go.
With the water at the same temperature, there's no density differences, and the mixing is much more uniform, giving a large swath of purple.
And you know how this debunks your accelerating Earth, guys? Because your accelerating Earth is based on the movement gives its density layering. We're showing again, it's just displacement without the accelerating move of Earth.
So I mentioned before that water density had something to do with the Titanic and other ships. It all has to do with this small symbol here. It's
a plimsoll line.
Plimsoll, yeah, it's where the water line's meant to go. If it goes above that, then it's overloaded.
Exactly.
The boat. Yeah, that's because in Fraserburgh, where I'm from, it's a fishing town. So we used to know if the boats were coming in, if they were like past the plimsoll line, they were coming in illegally. But you can't do that anymore. It's all checked. But once upon a time you could. But yeah, plimsoll, it's something I'm acquainted with.
Okay, guys. Now I'm going to try this again. Bye bye, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow night then. I'll put, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a poll up tomorrow morning so we can all vote what you guys want us to do the stream about tomorrow night. Because we still have those two other guys on from last night as well, which we still have to finish. And I know there's some other subjects people are also interested in. But thank you for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. You guys rock. Thank you for all the support, all the super chats, the likes, the shares, and just coming in. If you guys haven't already, please hit that like button. It does help to get the show to a further audience. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming. You guys are awesome. Until tomorrow night, many, many blessings. May the pressure be with you. Cheers.